Welcome into South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. Ashlyn and Al back here with you, and this episode is going to be way different than the last episode. The last episode we talked to was late last week after the Flyers, frankly, got embarrassed by the San Jose Sharks, and we were a little gloomy. We were getting ready for the impending gloom that we thought was going to be the rest of that West Coast trip, and man, were we wrong. The Flyers cranking out 2 West Coast wins and beating the Carolina Hurricanes on national TNT last night. What is going on, Al? Who is this team?
Well, who is the team's a good question. I mean, there's no doubt they play hard 90% of the time. So I guess they're an example of that cliche that, talent, hard work beats talent unless talent works hard. Mm-hmm. And this is what you knew coming into the season, that under Tortorella and with young players trying to get positions or earn roster spots, that they were going to play hard more often than not. And if you weren't willing to match that effort, no matter how talented you are, you were in for a rough night. And the Flyers were going to put you through the ringer to try to get a victory over them. So I think what you've seen here, Ashlyn, is you saw them play a couple of teams that just weren't hitting on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. And after that San Jose loss, the Flyers were working as hard as anybody, and that's what happened. It's a game where if you work hard, you shouldn't be blown out ever. You keep it close, and the Flyers came back and got some scoring touch, got goaltender back, and they end up on a 3-game. And for this team, it's a heater. 3 games in a row like this.
This is sadly the highest winning streak of the season for the Flyers, this 3-win streak. And I think if anyone could take away anything, I really like the way they responded, because I think this could have gone 2 different ways after the San Jose game. They could have just really packed the bed. I mean, especially that West Coast trip and the intimidation of it. They could have just said, we're embarrassed, and that's it. And they didn't. And I think the biggest takeaway, Al, is this offense. All of a sudden, it seems like they've simplified everything. They're just getting to the net, and good things are happening. And we talked about it for weeks, where we kind of saw this coming, that once it started clicking, it was going to be good. It was just kind of bearing the storm of waiting for it to click.
Yeah, it is amazing when you talk, post game with Hartsey, and we all talking about, why don't they just go north and south and just get to the net, get some traffic out in there. And they did it. But I think there wasn't much risk that they were going to completely collapse because Tortorella's coaching style, that they were going to, there was going to be some response to it. But what you had to have happen, Ashlyn, was you had to have decent goaltending to get you through some spots. And a couple of guys did more. I mean, it's weird. All 3 guys basically did that. Mm-hmm. And you had to have somebody find the scoring touch. And that's what happened. And it was critical to me that this didn't all happen because Konechny all of a sudden got red hot again. You can't just keep going to that. Well, whenever we get cold, he's going to get us out of it. Well, I mean, it's nice. He's a talented player, but you have to have more than that, and they got more than that.
Yeah, and Owen Tippett is a huge part of that. And I talked to Owen Tippett in the locker room this week about what that film study looked like with Torts of simplifying the offense. So let's take a listen. So just how good did it feel to get a couple goals over the weekend and kind of a bounce-back performance for the team as a whole, right?
Yeah, it was great. Those were 2 big games, especially going back-to-back with travel. It's important to kind of play those games smart and get 2 points at the end of it in each game. So it was good.
Once you get one, does it click? Does it feel any different?
Yeah, I think when you go a couple games without one, or the cliches, script stick too tight, kind of get frustrated and stuff. But when you see one kind of go in, it's always a weight off the shoulder, and lets you relax a little bit and feel more free.
And not that it was even that long for you, but what does it feel like when you're going through that period? Do you do anything differently, like mental anything, or?
I think, I've always said I'm my own worst critic, so I think when things are going wrong, and I'm the first one to kind of get down on myself and maybe try and do too much. So I just kind of went back to trying to simplify things and making sure I wasn't trying to overcomplicate anything and putting myself in by any worse by doing something I shouldn't have by just trying to do too much.
Yeah. Does that come from film study or a coach you talk to, or you just do it by yourself?
Yeah, I think it's you can see it in clips and you can see what areas you want to improve on, but I think the mindset's just a personal thing that I've kind of been working on, and just making sure that's what I always go back to, is just simplifying things. And I think with confidence comes the risk to make kind of more plays, and you feel more comfortable making those high danger plays. But when things aren't going right, then you just want to kind of simplify things.
And Morgan Frost, I'm sure you can relate to what he was going through, so it had to feel good to see him succeed as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, for a guy like that I've known him since I was younger, and he's helped me a big way ever since I came over. And to see a guy like that go through what he's gone through and to finally break out and in a big way, those were 2 big goals for us in that game. And it's always good to see your buddies do well. And I'm really happy for him.
And how did he help you? You mentioned he was a big part. What did he do?
Yeah, he just obviously a familiar face coming over in that trade, and make sure I was comfortable, making sure I knew kind of where to go, and if I needed anything, and he was always there, and just a good sounding board when I came over.
That's awesome. And Torts told us in a press conference the day before the Friday game that he wanted to see you guys get to the net. He just wanted to see you stay there. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what you guys did. Is that all he did, was just say that, or was this a bigger process?
Yeah, I think, we can... It seems more complicated, but sometimes when you simplify things and just say, okay, every puck's going to the net, you just got to get bodies there. And I think if everyone's on the same page, you can see how it works. And I think it paid off, and if we continue to do it, it'll help us.
So is that something you now really focus on at practice, or you think it's just going to stick because that's what everyone's doing now?
Yeah, I think it's just a mindset. Obviously, there's times where you can read the play and maybe step off and not go straight directly in front of the net, but I think for the most part, if your momentum's carrying you there, it's going to be a good thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Owen. I appreciate it.
So, Al, it sounded so simple, but what Owen is saying there is Torts literally just told them, get to the net, good things will happen. And Owen did say in that film study, there was multiple guys, including himself, where you could see them just the cliche, gripping the stick too tight, So, Al, it sounded so simple, but what Owen is saying there is Torts literally just told them, get to the net, good things will happen. And Owen did say in that film study, there was multiple guys, including himself, where you could see them just the cliche, gripping the stick too tight, being way too uptight, and just chilling out, and good things are happening. And we've seen that the past 3 games.
Yeah, I've liked his game since they got him. I mean, I call him Boots because he's so fast. And so when he gets wheeling down there and then just gets that shot to, gets the shot off, it's tough. And he freezes some opponents. God forbid he catches a forward on the way down. It's like our train going to go right past him. But he's a very confident player now. And when there's somebody in front of the net, even if when it's not, he can be in front. But when you see your own jerseys in front of the net, you're more likely to take that shot, see what happens with it. And the goaltenders just, goaltenders don't like one guy. Okay, their own guy knows, their own defenseman knows where to go so we can see it. Mm-hmm. But when you get traffic in front, you've really, really made the goaltender's job so much more difficult. And that's what it is. So tip of the hat to him, so to speak, to recognize not just my shot. There's people there that are making that shot more available to me, and I'm more willing to take it because better things are going to happen with somebody there to grab a rebound if it happens not to get past the goalie.
Big time. And thanks again to Owen Tippett for that Jack Daniels salute. And someone that's helping out Owen Tippett, and what a turnaround this guy has had, is Morgan Frost. He picked up an assist on Owen Tippett's goal against the Hurricanes Wednesday night. He has points in each of his last 3 games, 2 goals, 2 assists from Morgan Frost. It's impressive. I got to give him credit for everything he has gone through to get back in the lineup. Understand, if I don't do something, I'm going to be back out. The way he's playing, Torts is going to have a hard time sitting him again, Al, because this is a guy, I credit him. He's taking advantage of his opportunities, and he really only had 1.
Yeah, and that's what you want. That's that, I guess you would call it, I guess you could use other words, but politely, creative tension that the coach wants in the locker room. Yeah, wants in the locker room that, but what you want to see from him now is he can't, it's like, okay, now we're at the point where maybe it's 2.5 steps forward. Mm-hmm. You just can't slide back. I mean, that's what the big fear is. That, at least me watching him, it's like, hey, look good 1 game. Now he looked good 2 games. Now I'm waiting for 3 and 4, and at least not pull up at the blue line, make a questionable pass somewhere, don't clear, something like that. So he's getting better and better at that. So, and I think the coaching staff is a little bit more willing to live with some of it because the high-end skill is obviously there. But I don't know that he's ever going to be, you're going to be rock solid on him until you see like a quarter of a season like that, where there's very few of those steps backwards. But boy, there is, when they're behind by a goal, it's like, man, maybe, we'll see what happens with him. He can change a game. We just haven't seen it consistently.
Right. And good for him for taking advantage of that. And we'll see if he stays in the lineup as we get ready for this weekend slate of games back to back Saturday and Sunday. But what you want to see more of is Carter Hart back in net, because he was excellent against the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
31 saves on 32 shots and defense as well, blocking 30 shots. Said he had food poisoning in California, ate bad fish, not.
Well, I mean, Ashlyn. He's a veteran now.
Yeah.
No fish on the road.
Come on. You can let this guy now. Yeah.
Why
are we taking risks like this?
I don't care. I don't care if the game is in Hawaii. I'm having a burger. but it is awful. I remember, back in traveling with teams where Mike Keenan wouldn't let him eat on the plane at all unless you bring in your own. When you go on the charters now, everybody, they have their own chefs and everything. They have a meal the day of the game. You can't tell a guy not to have this and that. But boy, it's not that unusual to hear that it's food poisoning, because you eat out a lot, go to restaurants. Where I guess what you want is when you go out, 4 of you don't all get the same thing,
right?
just in case.
Especially the first liners, everyone gets something different.
Right, that's right. But it was like, oh man, I feel for anybody that goes through. I mean, I've been with, even in the media, people have gone through big games, they just can't get there. And some people say it's just food poisoning. No, it's not just food poisoning. You're dehydrated. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing. And, you often hear like jokes about it in the visiting town. What if the restaurateur, doesn't like that team or something? It's a worry. It's a legitimate worry. And it's why teams have their own chefs. They're all on their own food on board. But my recommendation would be, and I love seafood, but when I go on the road, if I have to be something next day really important, I'm going to skip it. I'm a peanut butter and jelly guy. Probably not going to get me in trouble.
There's no issues there.
But he was terrific when he came back. And I still think very underrated what he's done with this team. I mean, mind you, I think he's had the other goalies improve too, trying to kind of match him on what's gone on. But you really feel good when he's in there. And all, whenever they've won here recently, even though they win first periods, there's big saves by the goalies, Ashlyn, Hart, early in the game. And that changes the whole complexion of a game. If one of those sneaks through, if there's a wobbly, if there's a, kind of something that gets through a leaky goal, it changes everything. But when your goaltender saves you early, it's kind of, everybody looks at the saves late in a game. Those become critical saves when you can turn it around and not get behind early in a game. I like that. Is that George?
I'm so sorry if you can hear him.
I hear George. Why can't George make an appearance?
George is barking now every hour on the hour at the trash cans outside because they are a big threat to our safety. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, I just saw George is a golden. Yes. And I just saw a video some friends of mine sent me from back home in Vermont, that they now have a camp where you can 12 golden retrievers. You just come and play around with them all day. You pay money to go prance around with 12 golden retrievers.
I would pay money for them to take George. That would be a lot of money. Are you done?
There you go.
Nope, he's still going.
No. Hey, I've got this because my dog, I tried to grab the collar and the dog, so it cost me my biceps tendon. So be thankful he's just barking.
Give me one. I'm scared.
I would name him Torts. And there's Ashlyn. Ashlyn has now gone to take control of the situation. Much like Flyers coach John Tortorella, Ashlyn is now headed over to the locker room to get George and tell him that he has to play by the rules or he's going to be benched the next game. So beware. This empty studio is all because Ashlyn Sullivan has a dog that won't play the system. And she's going to make darn sure that he plays the system when she returns. And don't worry, she's going to do nothing. No harm's going to come to the dog. But that dog will get a stern talking to and be told there'll be no lunch. And why would you bark at an empty trash can? I and plus the dog. I got to give George credit. Ashlyn's dog George is not normally a city dog. He comes from Ashlyn's from Florida, so he's used to kind of a more laid back situation. So I can understand George might flip out a little bit hearing all the city noises here and there.
Trying to fill the time. I thought we were going to break.
I've gone right through. What'd you do to him?
I gave him a stick. It fixes everything.
There you go.
Where were we?
We were at the goaltender, Carter Hart.
I can't believe you filled that whole time. I thought we were going to just like go to an ad or something.
Yeah. I made it so you were Tortorella to the dog. You're telling the dog to stick to the rules.
Gosh, he doesn't stick to any rules.
Well, most NHL teams now, I mean, the Flyers have Gritty, but most NHL teams now have team dogs that, come out. It's pretty cool.
That's actually, Al, breaking news. That's going to happen Saturday on our pregame show. Coffee Cake with Paws, Philadelphia. Coffee Cake can't find a home, which is so sad. She's been up for adoption for 2 years. So she's part of the adoption center that Torts is involved in. So Coffee Cake is going to join Flyers pregame live on Saturday.
Nice.
I know it.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
If someone doesn't adopt Coffee Cake, I'm going to be very angry.
For Thanksgiving. Coffee Cake will be home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and she's going to be in the players' tunnel with the guys, welcoming them in her Flyers jersey. So she has a big day on Saturday.
You can't go wrong. Coffee Cake. What kind is it? Is it because of the color?
Yeah, she's brown and white. She is a 5-year-old female pit, but she's the sweetest girl. And I want someone to adopt her, and I just might if no one does. George will love it.
Right.
And my landlord will love it. Another one. Come on in.
Yeah. Beware.
Yeah, right? No thanks. Not quite. I need a backyard first. It's
That's right.
Life. All right, Al, you got a Lost in the Sauce. Who's your
Lost in the Sauce? This one is amazingly Lost in the Sauce. Remember, we did a post-game show, and Scott Hartnell said he thought Bobby Brink might win the Rookie of the Year trophy.
It was a bold
And
statement.
I'm like, I don't know about that. And he's playing really well. Well, now he's got to get back in the lineup because he's lost a little bit of it, little bit of the edge that he had. I still think he's going to fit right in. But we mentioned it before, there's a lot of competition. And Brink right now, his game fell off a little bit coming in, wasn't making the plays. I don't think he was anticipating as well he had previously to get the passes through or whatever. And plus, when everything was clogged up, you just have to make a change. And there's so many interchangeable young parts right now that he's the one right now that's lost in the sauce.
He is. He's been a healthy scratch for 2 games, and towards his media availability this week, it was funny. I think it was Charlie O'Connor asked, were you just giving him a rest? He's a young guy. Were you just taking him out of the lineup to give him some rest? He's like, no, he wasn't playing well enough, and that's why he's sitting.
Well, no young guy gets rested. It's Charlie thinking. Young guys want to play every single night. No, absolutely not. No, you don't get you don't need I mean, the one player in Anaheim, maybe you come in, you're 18 years old and you just don't have any strength to you. You get in the gym or a little bit, Carlson. But no, this guy he does not need this time off. He wants to be in the lineup every single night, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, and Torts frankly just said his play is leveled out. We haven't seen enough of him the past couple of games. So we'll see if he gets back in. Maybe Saturday. My Lost in the Sauce is Yegor Zamula, and I have a feeling we might not be seeing a lot of him this weekend because Torts wants to see more of him. He's putting him in a lot of situations, but he has committed to, I'll say it, awful, costly turnovers Wednesday night, and that's something that just drives Torts crazy. We saw it with Cam York. When you just flip the puck into the stands, you can't have it. And especially we have Rasmus Ristolainen coming back at some point. We don't know when. Mark Stahl we could see as early as Saturday or Sunday. So they're going to have to make room anyway. But I expect Samula might be lost in a sauce here for a little bit.
Yeah, for a little bit. And unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game. The fact that Risto is skating like that, like he is now, I got to think next week he's going to be in. I mean, they got a bunch of games coming up. I would think right around Thanksgiving, he's back in the lineup, get his conditioning in here and get ready. Yeah, you can live with some mistakes, but you can't live with too many on defense because it's a difficult position and it leads to chaos. Luckily, they've got goaltenders that have covered up some of it. And York, as you mentioned, York had that puck roll up on him, and he flipped it in the really horrible, a week ago now, a little over a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
But he's an interesting character to me. I think York has, I think I at least got it wrong early, and I think some other people might have also, because he moves so well, thinking that he was going to be more of an offensive defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
But watching his game now, he's really become quite good angling people with the stick. And I think his future might be more as a defensive guy than the guy that just scoots. I mean, the last thing you need is for him to start getting Provorov-like, thinking I can do this on the power play. I don't think he can, but I do think he's far better anticipating as a defenseman than I thought he would be. His skill set is better than I thought there. So it's a plus minus thing, I guess. If you thought he was going to run up points, and I actually thought he was going to be more of a point getter or a setup, maybe a power play guy, but it doesn't look that way now.
No.
And so I am very, very encouraged that defensive side of the game is so much better than I expected.
Yeah, it's a big year for him, no doubt. Yeah. This is the guy that needs to show up this year and kind of wants to rewrite his story. But so far, so good for Cam York, and they're going to need him this weekend. They're going to need everyone this weekend. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now, but it's on the road. Flyers now 9 games out of 12 games back at home. Kind of seems like a bad thing for the Flyers. They seem to play better on the road for some reason. And Saturday, Vegas Golden Knights, defending Stanley Cup champs, they come to town now.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, there's this old cliche, first game back from a road trip is tough, which sounds good, but it's baloney. If you look at the stats, it's like it's a bunch of malarkey. It doesn't really matter. It's you've been on the road. You play in Vegas. It doesn't matter if it was your third home game. It's going to be really tough. I mean, they clog up the middle of the ice. They're patient. They wait for you to make a mistake, turn it over, it comes the other way. So it's going to be a very disciplined game that they're going to have to play there. It's an Saturday afternoon, so it could be a vibrant crowd, you would assume.
Yeah.
And they deserve a pretty good welcome for what they've done on the road. So I would hope that would be the case, where you come in early. And this is where you do sort of need, if not a quick lead or 1-0, a quick goal or whatever, you certainly need some energy early in the game to get that crowd going, get them into it. Because, playing good on the road, we saw that home game where, if you don't score, people come into the game. That's why they're at the game.
Yeah, I don't blame them. They pay money.
Yeah, they want to see something going. So I think this is a good one to come in. Boy, it'll be a huge win, in my opinion, to come back and win this one. Forget that it's just the first game home, but to beat that team, and they played pretty well against them previously.
They did.
And they're opening some eyes now in terms of, now this isn't just a mirage early like the previous seasons. There's something to this. There's a stick-to-itiveness that this team has, and that should carry over hopefully into this couple of home games, and then really exciting holiday week coming up.
Big time. And scoring early, I think, is everything. You got to give the fans something to believe in, and you have to ride momentum. And if you can get a couple goals on this team, you have a chance. But if they get from behind, and this Vegas Golden Knights team is so fast. But on the other side, you look at Sunday against Columbus, worse record than the Flyers, and the Flyers should be able to handle this team.
Well, yeah, right. Just like the West Coast, San Jose.
Yeah, right.
So,
never saying that again.
The best plans here. No, I mean, I think that first game, even if it's not the quick goal, I'm curious if he doesn't put the fourth line out to some physical play.
Set a tone.
They want to risk a penalty, but something like that. They've got options in how they approach that. So I would think one way or another, you don't want to wade into this thing in the afternoon. And it's weird. Some teams just aren't afternoon teams. They just, I don't know what it is, but I would recommend that that if it's Carter Hart, that he sets the alarm clock so he thinks it's an afternoon and he does not have fish the night before.
Please. No fish on Friday night, Carter. If you're listening, that's our tip for you. Carter Hart most likely on Saturday, Sam Anderson most likely on Sunday, and we'll recap it all early next week. That is South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
See you, George.